Everything Suspect Podcast. It's your boy Billy D. You know how we do. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. Can we please get to it? In honor of hip hop, for those who don't know, and if you don't know, you don't know me, I am a huge hip hop fan. I used to be in a group, Out Noise, shout to Kareem, Will, Ya, Nard, everybody, Bugsy, you know, shout to my old crew, Sneak, Cuzzo, you know what I'm saying? Like, shout to Out Noise, man. And so with Hip Hop 50 coming up on August 11th, me and a group of my guys, ex-military, we're going to New York. We're going to make the pillage. For anybody who knows me, I got this thing that I'm doing now where I chase things that I love, things that have sculpted the man that I am. Typically it's my heroes, but hip hop is one of my heroes in general. The culture, it grew me up. You know what I'm saying? I matured in it. Like, I became a man listening to hip hop. It's crazy to think. It's crazy to even say, but I would be lying if I said that part of the man that I am didn't come from the hip hop that I listen to. I don't know. It's music. So anybody who's followed this podcast, they've seen me. I've chased Martin Luther King. I went to Memphis. I've chased Malcolm X. I went to New York. But I'm chasing hip hop. And we're going to do that by all going to the Bronx and being in the Bronx where hip hop was birthed on the day that hip hop turns 50. We'll be going to a concert in Yankee Stadium. I have homies coming in. We're all coming in from everywhere. I got a homie from New Orleans that's coming in. I have a homie from Alabama that's coming in. I got a homie from DC that's driving up. I got a homie from VA that's coming in. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. And this show embodies all of that. It's really, really cool because we can all go to a show and there's going to be somebody there for all of us that came from the culture in which we grew up in. And that's what's dope about hip hop. And that's what's dope about this trip. And I'm going to document everything. I'm going to put it together. I'm going to have to, we're going to do it all. So I felt it only right to do a really dope hip hop podcast. And I'm going to do what everybody else does, right? Top 5 greatest hip hop groups of all time. Mine, not yours. And what I'm also going to do is I want to give honorable mentions. Let's have a conversation. You want to get in them comments and talk about how whack my stuff is, or how much you agree with it, or how I opened your mind up to something that you weren't thinking about, by all means. The latter usually never happens. Nobody ever gives props to, oh, you know what? I like that you said I never thought of them being that, because you already have your mind made up on who you think is dope, and you already want to downplay what another dude thinks over you. So let me give you the criteria. First, I did top 5 because top 5 is just a thing, but I am also paying homage to Chris Rock when I do that. Top 5, the movie was dope. I think after I do this pod, I'm going to go upstairs and watch it. When I go top 5, it's top 5 of categories in which I feel describe, entell, encompass greatness. Since hip hop is turning 50, this is a grown man's, grown woman's genre now. We're 50. We're flavored. We got gray in our beards. You know what I'm saying? We have gray in our hair. We're growing up. We're transitioning into being gentlemen and we're no longer young ladies. We're women, sophisticated women. We're no longer thugs. We're no longer goons. We're gentlemen. We're turning into a gentleman's genre. Okay? So when you do that, in order to be in this group, you have to be 21 and older. What does that mean? That means if you are a group that has not been in hip hop longer than 21 years, you're automatically removed from my top 5. You can't be in my top 5 in a genre that's 50 years old and you ain't even old enough to drink yet. Sorry. Could do 18, but that's just weird. So we're just sticking with 21. So if you are thinking that somebody that the City Girls or the Migos or whoever is going to be in this that ain't been in the game 21 years and you have a problem with that, by all means, there's the door. Okay? But if you are still interested in seeing where I'm going, stay in. So I'm going to work it backwards. Meaning the 5 that we do, I'm going to start with what I feel is least important and work my way to what is most important. So maybe you can even just say the last one that I come up with is the greatest hip hop group of all time. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And for me, it is originality is number 5. Synergy is number 4. Lyrical content is number 3. Longevity is number 2. And number 1 is cultural impact. And cultural impact is number 1 because that's what pushes this thing called hip hop forward. That's what gets us into mainstream. That's what allows us to do shows overseas when ain't no Americans buying tickets to come see you. That thing, that cultural impact that pushes hip hop forward, that makes it a worldwide thing, I believe that is the number 1 thing that makes the greatest group of all time. Cool? Let's get to it. 5 is originality. The Roots. I know you can think of a million others, and that's not what we're here for. This is my top 5. By all means, hit the comments. Tell me what the most original group you've ever heard of, and put it in there. Now I'm going to tell you why the Roots are it for me. Live instrumentation. Distortion and static. Have you ever heard distortion and static? It's a beat that's made off of people laughing. They are the only live group. They brought live instrumentation to hip hop. Maybe others did it in the past, but like if you look now and you see what is dope about Tiny Desk concerts is that it's bringing, especially when it comes to black music, it's bringing in this live instrumentation. Like, oh my God, I didn't know Juvenile could sound so good over horns and percussions. I didn't know Back That Ass Up could sound so amazing if you put it into a live setting. He sounds better over raw music. I believe that's what the Roots did. The Roots allowed it to be okay, and it's also this thing where like hip hop was being dinged by people that were older than us for sampling and this and that. Nah, y'all just taking stuff that we did, and y'all you're stealing our culture. And the Roots came in. All right, cool, man. We're just gonna bring our own live instruments in here. We're gonna beatbox, we're gonna scratch, and we're gonna play instruments. Originality. Honorable mentions for originality, because the Roots, although they might be the greatest original hip hop group of all time, they came from the native tongues. Do your knowledge, do your math. And when I say native tongues, I'm going to cast a wide net. R.I.P. Jay Dilla. I believe Jay Dilla is a person that came from native tongues. Even though the Roots might not have been around for when Tribe Called Quest came out, or Brand Nubian came out, or all of those people who we know are parts of native tongue, they took what they were doing and they put it on another level. So honorable mention to Black Star, who I believe is a part of native tongue. I consider them native tongues. More also, even though she had her own thing, Queen Latifah and the Flavor Unit, that's native tongues to me. Moni Love, of course, was a part of native tongues. So I just feel like all of that is family. So originality has to be the greatest original group of all time when it comes to hip hop is the Roots. They're on the Tonight Show, for goodness sake. Every night, that's the house band. Who knew hip hop could do that? And ain't another group in hip hop that can do that. Right now, according to like, they're doing something like Johnny Carson, who was way before our time. Like, they could have been it's crazy. Shout to the Roots. Roots, #1 original band in hip hop history. Synergy. I'm gonna piss y'all off. I'm gonna really piss y'all off. Smith and Wesson. They've been together for 30 years. They have not broken up. You haven't heard them have any kind of beef. They've never like had taken time off. If they did, you didn't know about it. They're like an amazing married couple, and all they've done is made amazing music over and over and over again. The Shining is one of the dopest hip hop albums of all time. They come from the boot camp clique, who's just filled with groups who are dope lyricists who can go. LaFleur is all of them together, and they just sound like brothers. Come on. Smith and Wesson was the first group to ever have, they're like everybody knows Run DMC is amazing, but there's something different about Rakim and Big Daddy Kane. Their lyrics were advanced. They were ahead of their time. It was crazy how they could coexist in that same genre, in that same era, and like Run DMC be like ba 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 ba, but then you have Rakim come up and it's like a automatic to like a single shooter. You know what I'm saying? And that's what Smith and Wesson did. Smith and Wesson took what these old rappers was doing, which was dope, but they shared lyrics, they shared words, they shared lines, and I know that Run DMC did it, but Smith and Wesson did it better. Sorry. Their synergy, they shared a brain. And here's what's dope, and here's what makes them different than everybody else, because there are a lot of groups out there that can be added in this group called Synergy. Nobody knows who's better. Nobody knows if Tech or Steel is better. They are equally yoked, and they're both dope MCs. Period, point blank. I don't need to hear a Steel solo album. I don't need to hear a Tech solo album. I'm good on that. Nobody knows who's better in Smith and Wesson. That's what makes them amazing. Synergy. Let's go with honorable mention. What is another group that is so dope you don't know who's better? Salt and Pepper. Honorable mention, Salt and Pepper. Maybe Kid and Play, but not really. They just came into my mind, but Salt and Pepper. I don't know who's better. I believe if they battled, I don't know who to choose. So yes, Synergy, Smith and Wesson is the greatest hip hop group of all time when it comes to synergy, sharing. I could have put Method Man and Redman in here, but hip hop heads don't consider them a group. You know what? I'll do you one better when it comes to synergy. I'll throw this one in there. Who can share whatever. You're really not gonna like me for this. Bone Thugs and Harmony. You don't know who's who, which is which, unless you're a super fan. They rhyme the same. They can share the same lyric. You ain't waiting on one so the other one can get done, so old buddy can come through and knock it out the park. That don't exist with Bone. Equally yoked, equally can go. Ain't no one man above the crew. Next, lyrics. Lyrical content. And maybe they have a advantage. Wu-Tang. And I say they have an advantage just because there's so many of them. But name somebody in a group who can have the lyrics of the genius. Ray. I would say Ghost, but Ghost has been known to say, I don't know what I was rapping about when I was rapping that. And I can't just say, I can't throw Ghost in there. Even though his lyrics are dope, if you don't even remember what you were trying to say when you said it, I'm sorry, bro. Like I can't throw you in there, even with them dope lyrics. But in a group, when you put all Capadonna's Winter Wars, bro, nobody's effing with the lyrics of a hip hop group harder than Wu-Tang was, man. I'm sorry, it is what it is, and they always got a shiner on there. So, greatest lyrics of all time in a hip hop group goes to Wu-Tang Clan. Shout out the fourth. Peace, bro. There's only one honorable mention, and that's Outkast. Just because 3000 is one of the greatest lyricists of all time, it cannot be denied. So Outkast automatically has to be thrown in with best lyrics. Longevity, Run DMC. They kept the lights on in hip hop when corporate America wanted to shut them out. They made the crossover. They did songs with Aerosmith, for goodness sake. And they're going to be at this concert that I'm going to. Longevity, man. Like, and granted, they don't have a new album out. And they haven't rhymed in a long time. But for some reason, if you're a hip hop head, they're still relevant. They're still dope. You can't not listen to them. You can't not respect their contributions. And I can't have a top 5 without them being one of the greatest groups of all time. So Longevity, Reverend Run, and DMC, all the respect in the world. Last, cultural impact. Like I said before, cultural impact means the most, and it means the greatest hip hop group of all time. And I know that that's hard to even distinguish or figure out or whatever. And I've had beefs and fights with friends over this very topic, and my number one does not move. Cultural impact. Listen to me. It has nothing to do with the music. It has to do with how it grew hip hop. Period. Dot. Nothing more, nothing less. NWA. Yeah. NWA is the most culturally impactful hip hop group of all time. So for me, they are my number one hip hop group ever. Why do I say that? If you remove NWA from the ether, just the fact that they're here, just the fact that they existed on this planet, if you remove them, you don't have a Snoop Dogg. You don't have Snoop is just, Snoop by itself is enough to just be like, all right, cool, you got it. We can't live in a world without Snoop. Snoop has started out just being known to us little dudes, and now he's known to the world. Black Enterprise. Ice Cube, I just saw in an article, is the first black owned or the third black owned all fully black company, and that's the Big Three. He owns a league that he started himself, just like whoever started the NFL and got all these teams involved. Like Cube did that. Cube also, it's so weird because like I want to like do it step by step, but like you can't, just because it's so crazy the impact that they had. Where are we without Friday? Where are we without Day Day, Money Mike, Smokey, Cat Williams, Mike Epps, Chris Tucker? They are not the people that we know them to be without Ice Cube, without those movies. I remember going to watch Friday in the movie theater with the homies, man. Like, it's crazy. Kendrick Lamar, 50 Cent, Game, Tupac, Death Row Record. What are we doing without Tupac? Tupac was the Elvis Presley of hip hop for years on end. And the only reason why he's still not is because like hip hop moves at such a vast speed. Dude, if you remove NWA from hip hop, the world is different. The entire earth does not spin the way it spins. We don't get what we get without NWA. And I think I said it, like, even when you look at, even if you do the math on like who you like now, from your Kendrick Lamar, your Thundercats, your Emerson Paak, amazing artists, they come from that NWA West Coast umbrella. I only have two groups when it comes to an honorable mention. And I don't even know if maybe I did this wrong. Maybe I should have gave the honorable mentions first and then hit you with boom, the NWA. But Two Live Crew deserves to be recognized as one of the most cultural, impactful groups, because it was the Two Live Crew who kicked down the door for NWA to come in. I kind of think NWA would have did it anyway, just because how gangster they were. But there was something about fighting the system that's so hip hop that Luke and the Two Live Crew did that had never been done before when it was happening. And I was very young at the time, but I can remember like watching it like, yo, these cats is really fighting for their rights. And I didn't even know what that meant at the time, but I knew they were going against the government. They were calling out the president and like, you not going, and they had the ear of the president. It wasn't this weird thing where they're like throwing rocks down a daggone echo chamber and like whoever they're trying to talk to ain't listening to them. No, it was hardcore. Like the parental advisory. You can thank Uncle Luke and the Two Live Crew for doing that, man, and making hip hop dangerous and making it something that like you can shut us down if you want to, but we not going nowhere. Jeez, man, like Two Live Crew, all due respect, and they would be so canceled right now if they were coming out with that guy. They would get rid of these cats so fast. So like, shout to them for like their bravery, man. Two Live Crew deserves a lot of credit. And on that same note, Public Enemy. And here's the thing with Public Enemy, and the podcast is over. Public Enemy were saying stuff that was scary if you listen to them, and they didn't care, and that gave us this sense of we don't care either. We're here to fight. And what was dope about what Public Enemy did was they connected with Spike Lee. And that's what we're talking about, culture, right? And how to hear Public Enemy doing Fight the Power on a movie that was so revolutionary, like Do the Right Thing, like just the way that Spike Lee created that movie and knew what music to put to it, and he put that music that was new, that was created for like social unrest in black life and culture in Brooklyn, that he was just giving this microcosm and shooting it out to the world. Spike Lee would be a dope ass rapper if he was not a director. He might have been a GOAT just because like his art was so amazing. Like right here, and you can't see it, I have a picture that he autographed to me because he's just one of my heroes, dude. And just for him to make a movie that's so impactful, and he never got his love, and unfortunately Spike Lee's going to be a guy who when he dies he's going to get his flowers, and it's just so terrible, and it's such a crime that he will not get what he wants. But to hook up with a revolutionary group like Public Enemy and do a score for a movie that's so impactful. It's just crazy, man. And lastly, we have to give props to Flavor Flav, because cultural impact, I'm sorry, I'm going to say something that's going to sound weird, that people are going to have an issue with, and I don't care. All of these shows, Love and Hip Hop, Tattoo, whatever, like all of these black shows that are like creating stars, like your Cardi B's, like your Safaris, like whoever else is on these shows, and giving life to artists who lost their relevancy. Dude, Flavor of Love is the GOAT. It's the OG. I just honestly believe without Flavor of Love, as crazy and as weird and as whack as that sounds, there ain't nobody talking about For the Love of New York or anybody that was on those shows. But honestly, dude, I think Flavor of Love created a subculture of media in hip hop that is just unsurmountable. Dude, right now there's beef on the internet right now from a person who is going back and forth with somebody on Twitter or on YouTube or whatever, and they are only known, or they're majorly known from just being on Love and Hip Hop or one of those shows that are similar to that. Thank Flavor Flav. So that's my 5, man. That's my 5. The Roots, Smith & Wesson, Wu-Tang, Run DMC, NWA. I'm dying to know what your top 5 are. Happy Hip Hop 50. You'll be seeing more on the channel about Hip Hop 50. Hope y'all have a great, amazing, wonderful end to your summer. See y'all soon. Everything Suspect Podcast. Y'all chill.
Everything Suspect Podcast.